Who's ready for some voice actor stuff? I see Kermit down here is like super stoked. He's shaking. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring all of them out. They're all ready to go. So first up, we've got... That's your cue, come on. First up, we've got Mr. Fred Tatasciore. Mr. J. Michael Tatum. Mr. Brandon McGinnis. Mr. Tina B. And Mr. Nathan Sharp. So, for some reason, that microphone isn't working, so what we're going to do is just line up with your questions. Try to speak as loudly as possible so they can hear you on stage, and they will answer your questions. So, go ahead and get lined up. Like I said, speak loudly and clearly. Thank you.
Should we introduce ourselves?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, she's pretty right.
Great. You're going to introduce yourself soon.
What are you doing?
Good morning, are you on?
That's not all right.
I'm literally 5 feet away. What? Hi, I can't hear you.
I don't think it's on. But anyway, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay, question for all of you. What is your favorite Christmas carol?
I like the one about Charles Dickens.
I do too.
That's my favorite.
Oh, night!
There we come a wassailing because it has a fun word in it.
Wassailing.
Wassailing.
It's true.
Wassailing. You get your drink on.
Awesome.
Silent night.
Oh, that's good. Bad King wins his loss.
Drummer boy. Love that. That's yeah.
Is the Grinch song a Christmas carol?
I think now.
That would be that. That relates.
You're a mean one. Thank you.
So I'm in a voice acting club at UCF, and we were lucky enough to have Erin Fitzgerald come in as like a guest coach. And one thing she had told us about was like focusing on different parts of your body, like if we focus on the space above your head or like the nose, maybe like your knee, you can find a different voice each part. So are there any characters that like where you like do something with some part of your body and the voice is just suddenly there? Or like with characters with it.
Well, for me, it's a lot like she's treating it like singing. I mean, you're a singer, you know, it's like it's different. There's head voices and throat voices and chest voices. And you guys hear me okay? I don't know. I would say, like, for example, for me, it's a lot of where I'm registering something in the throat. It's a very technical thing, but like for Hulk, for example, there's a place. I go right in here, right about here, and if it's thing, it's just a little above that and a little where I'm going to place them a little higher. You know, so it's and add an accent. You know what I mean? But like you do, and I noticed also, especially with Avengers and a few other characters, people take the physical pose of the characters. Like when I play Hulk, I'm usually standing, and I'm just, you know, like I don't do this for any other character, but it just gets me grounded in that reality. So I don't know. How about you guys? Do you have any place with you?
Yeah, I have, Sebastian is, he's a demon, but he's kind of a demon in the old Greek sense. He's kind of the spirit of the air, so I tend to kind of think of him as and he's very much my head voice. And he doesn't have a lot of resonance. He's very soft. And so he sort of speaks like this, and it's very airy. He sort of sounds like a breeze blowing through, weeds or something. And so I always he's up here sort of hovering, which makes him really intimidating. It's obviously he's watching me and judging everything I do, like don't screw it up. So he's sort of up here like this. And other characters, down in the way. Yeah, but I'm a very physical actor. I used to, has anyone seen Bacano? I'm sure somebody's seen that. That was, Isaac was the first character, one of the first characters I ever played, who was really very over the top and loud and funny and kind of a buffoon, which I love playing. And he was my first time out, because up until that point, I always put the really suave characters and the ones that didn't emote very much. And he was all over the place and speaking, and I loved it. And I would get really physical in the booth, and then I would tend to freeze in pose while they were, fixing things or placing the dialogue. And I would just, so if they had to get it again, I'd be ready to go. So I'd freeze in these insane positions. And Tyler, the show's director, would just kind of watch me and be like, what the hell are you doing? And I'd be like, I don't know, it's the character, it's fine. And at some point he was giving like a speech and I was just like on the mic sort of doing this thing. Like, I don't know why, but my arm was like, oh, everything is really wonderful and I'm talking like this and my hands are going like this. And they were like, this is hysterical. You look like a crazy person. And a few scenes later, like that day, we got to a scene where Isaac and Miria were doing exactly that. And I was like, yes! I called it, Tyler, shut up! So I get very physical. I've taken out microphones.
Oh, yeah.
I've fallen off of things. Yeah.
We look really silly doing what we do. Like,
Yeah.
there's always, every photo of me doing anything, I'm like this. Worst IMDb.
Yeah, I do that too. Like I'll put my hands up, or like if there's tension or conflict or emotion or something that I need more energy for, I'm like power pose. There's a show called Non-Buck Up. Anyone's seen that? That had a really weird voice for me. I went in and the director, Aaron Disney, was wonderful enough to bring me in and say, hey, let's play. Let's play for like 10 minutes to figure out what we want to do with this voice. And so I kept moving the voice around in a way, like around the body, and I ended up here like this, and it was just a very different voice for me, and so we went to have it, but it's right here, it's like,
What do you call that, nasal?
nasal, yeah, nasal breath.
Nasal breath.
Same, but not really.
One in particular for me, I remember, was Craig from Dream Daddy, because he's like really suave dude, bro, with like puffed out chest and good posture, and my spine looks like someone, like a mole person who hasn't seen light in like years, which is accurate. So like I was like, oh, I need to like pretend I'm like suave so I can get out and go like, dude, soft, like just really like fratty dude, bro. So yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Great question.
Hello.
So my question is, you guys did a 45-minute TED Talk that was with zero preparation. So the topics could not be voice acting, animation, video games, or writing. What would you talk about?
What else?
I would talk about music or architecture. Passions.
I would talk about my dog and how she's the greatest thing in the world.
Give a talk on Japanese grammar. Lots to talk about.
Yeah. I'd love to talk about like history, the anthropology, and spirituality, human just development of the earth. I'd love to talk about that.
I'd probably talk about memes.
Good morning.
My question for you all is, for Christmas, which characters or anime universe that you voiced in would you want to spend with the characters' voice?
Whoa.
Not Attack on Titan. So
Yeah, you know what?
hang on, here we go. I want to see an Oron High School Club version of A Christmas Carol, where like Tom and Dee is Scrooge, and they all have to like pretend to be the different ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. Which I think would be really funny because there's a really funny there's a show from ages ago called Blackadder, which stars Rowan Atkinson. He did a very brief Blackadder Christmas Carol, which was a brilliant concept. He was like this really nice guy, and the spirits got it wrong and came to him, and showed him basically how much better life would be if he were a total asshole to people. And they were just like, oh, sorry, we messed up, but I mean, be good. He's like, no, clearly, being a jerk's the way to go, and that's the message.
I'd like to be spend time with those. Anybody remember Breadwinners?
Yes.
I was the bread maker, and we had some really fun Christmas. I would love to spend time on that planet, the duck planet. Minecraft fans anywhere? No? Okay, we have a lot of fun in that. I love to spend time with Jack, and we just build stuff. That would be fun.
I voiced Frodo in Lord of the Rings Online, and it's been around forever. And I think that would be a really fun universe to have Christmas in, just because I think I want to see like Gandalf with Christmas lights in his beard. It'd be great.
I think any of my characters really need like a good happy Christmas because they're all pretty sad. I think I'd like to spend it with Cubone. Cool.
Are you trying to make us all cry?
I'd probably spend probably Gabri from Fairy Tale, just because there's like magic and like a bunch of cool stuff, and I don't know, I feel like in that universe I'd actually have abs, so. So yeah, it sounds pretty good.
Everyone has abs in that show.
Hi.
My question is, when you felt like you had experience with this book, you create an album of any genre that you want to look at?
I'm kind of working on this. I'd love to do some funny noise music with voices and make like a whole bunch of like just comedy, but kind of DJ version of stuff, but with cartoon and with animation and sound and character voices. Just to make like a jazz version of just crazy characters. I'd love to do that.
It'd be fun. Mine would be, I've played piano since I was 6. I'm actually not super trained, and I would love to one day put out an album of me playing stuff like original compositions, which I still do, but who knows if it'll ever happen. That would be fun.
Mine would be EDM.
Yes. Hell yeah.
We character voices.
Get us up there.
We're working on an album right now. First, we're gonna finish releasing the cover songs, and then we're gonna be working on original stuff. So yeah, so next year.
I don't know, maybe it's because I've been listening to a lot of like Rich Chiga and Machine Gun Kelly, but I'd love to put out a rap album because I've never like tried it before. I think it'd be fun. Probably really bad too.
Hi, I'm just trying to but thinking of line of work, how I think it's like separating between personal investment and professional, like almost like if Fred needed Overwatch or something. Yeah, how much of that would be, it's a job, gotta do it, whatever, or how invested are you in things?
How invested are you in something, even if you're not into it, or like how invested?
I look at it this way. Being an actor, there are many times that I'm asked to breathe life into something that I am not the intended audience for. And I just accept that, it's just not me. It's, this is, but that doesn't mean that the audience it is for doesn't deserve the best I can do. I mean, it's my job. And I feel like it's such a fun job, like it really is. I know sometimes we talk about how hard it is because it's auditioning and this, that, the other, but when you get in the booth, you actually have a chance to apply your trade. It's so much fun. You're working with people that you know and respect, and they're, you're having, it's a ball. So to not find, even in a show that I didn't like her, and I've honestly never worked on a show that I hated. And I've had days where I'm like, oh, today is crap. It's not about the show, it's just about where my headspace is. But I mean, I feel like I'm an actor, and so if I can't find something to love about what I'm working on, it's a failure of my own imagination, and I'm clearly doing it wrong. So I'm always very mindful of, I may not be who this is for, but the people this is for deserve the best performance I can. And sometimes it's good, sometimes not really being into what you're watching kind of keeps this emotional distance so you don't get too wrapped up in it. When I was doing Steins Gate, for example, which I loved dearly, but I also worked on it as a writer with Patrick Seitz, who's one of my favorite people to work with in the world. And then I was given the chance to play Okabe, the main character, and it's a very emotional show, and it kind of broke me in some ways. and I'm not exaggerating. I mean, it was 4 months of really hard work, and it was so emotional that I'd come home and, I'd be in the booth for 8 hours and then come home and I have to write the same show, and it's, the show's all about time jumps and stuff, so it was kind of my real life, my own experience of the show was kind of fragmented in the way that the main characters is of reality. And I thought, oh my God, and it was really difficult. And I was like, God, in some ways I wish I hated this show because then I could just kind of shed all of it when I came home and just be Michael again. But it was really hard to find Michael again after the end of that performance. So sometimes not being the audience for a show is a great way to approach acting because then it's more of a challenge and it's more, you can be a little more objective about it. Does that make sense?
Once again, you puts it better than I would. For me, again, I've been lucky. I've never worked on something that I've really hated. I mean, there's some jobs that are harder than others, that are grueling, just because they're just manic, a lot of those kind of things where you're like, at the end of the week, you're like, I work on video games, I've lost my voice. I would say, if it's not maybe my audience, the key with, again, the acting thing is you just got to make it good for yourself. Be invested fully into the character. So I feel like that is my job. So I make it fun, or I make it just something engaging for me. For example, I love the games. I'm not the greatest gamer, but I live the game, so well. And I get so deeply entrenched in the characters and the stories that I feel like I'm trying to give you that for it's one part of the art experience, and then you as the gamer get to experience the other. And that kind of makes it all the more fun for me,
There's that kind of disconnect between an actor and an audience member. Michael and I have this acting teacher that said something very profound one time, and that was how you feel as an actor doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's not your experience, it's the audience's experience. What they feel, what they construct, that is the important thing. And that was really important to me earlier this year, because I did a stage show where I really was kind of uncomfortable in the character, and I got a direction from a director that every cell in my body resisted. I was like, oh no, I can't do that. And it wasn't like that won't read well. It was I don't feel comfortable doing this. This wouldn't be something Brandon would do. But in the end, it was like, okay, we're doing this. And after I did it once on stage, I was like, this totally works. And it was very strange because it was in the round and the audience was like a foot from me, which is really weird having like some old lady right there where you're
Tell me about
crazy.
it.
It was suggested in the show that the character had like an illicit relationship with his mother, and Michael was sitting next to my mother in the audience. And he's like, God, Mom, it's not, it's a character, whatever, it's fine. But it worked. It was very, very great.
The only auditions and jobs I've turned down were because it's subject matter that I'm not comfortable with, like things that really skew on the side of being, pornographic or like borderline hentai, and those are the only jobs that I say no to because I'm just not comfortable with that. Thank you.
I just want to add that the extra hell of theater too, because it's one thing we record it once or do it like you got to do it every night. If you're not into it, you got to find some way in. Yeah. One more time.
What's really great about our acting teacher that I go to a lot is his philosophy is that there is no wrong way to enter a scene. As long as you're real, it doesn't matter. If you're having the worst day of your life, even if the character you're playing is having the best day of their life, if you're just in that moment, it doesn't matter. The thing about something that you learn as an actor, I think is very true, is that people don't sit in the audience, they don't pay their money to watch you have a feeling. They sit there to have a feeling themselves. So your job as the actor is to act, which means take action, do things. What you're feeling doesn't matter, because as long as I'm real in that moment, or any of us are real in that moment, you will tell yourself the story. You will project, oh, he must be feeling this. So I'm not playing an emotion. There's no, if I'm sitting there, if I'm like, oh man, I just can't do this today, I'll just enter the scene like that. And I'll do something, and if I just own it and don't waste precious energy trying to convince you that I'm not feeling how I'm feeling, you'll make sense of my choices, even though they seem to kind of contradict the text. You'll be like, wow, what an interesting choice. Our acting teacher did a one-man show once. He's also a rock climber, very experienced mountain climber, rock climber. That's his passion. He calls it dancing with the rock. A beautiful way of putting it. And he did a one-man show where he played this famous rock climber whose name I don't remember sadly, but the guy had been passed away 10 years prior to this one-man show. And so here Stephen, our teacher, was doing it, and he was, he has these little tricks. When you're doing a one-man show, it's like a 2-hour monologue. That's a beast of a thing to put on. It's the whole burden of the performance is on you. And he would forget, and he'd realize, oh, that was 2 pages ago, and I forgot that, and he'd suddenly go, I'm suddenly thinking about where I am in the script, and I'm not in the moment anymore, and the audience feels the disconnect. So he would do these little tricks. He and his director would give him things to do, like, hey, if you ever have a moment where you feel you're kind of straying out of the now, just give yourself something really weird and physical to do to get yourself out of your own head. So he, one night, totally just in the middle of realizing, oh crap, I don't know where I am in the script. I just skipped 4 pages of really important stuff. Crap, he just got on the stage and he started crawling across the floor like he was scaling the side of a mountain, which was weird. Nothing like that had been done in any of the other performances, and everyone in the audience was riveted, and he just kind of did it until he remembered what his line was, and then it just came, and then whatever. Afterwards, the widow of the man he was portraying had been sitting in the audience and came up to him, and she was like, that was my Robert, you got him so well. But think about that for a second. At no point in that man's life had he done that thing. But because he was real in that moment, everyone just bought it and made sense. You're like, oh God, that's when you got on all fours and started doing push-ups in the middle of your monologue about your mom dying. Oh my God, I totally got that. Because it's real. If you've ever seen a live performance when there's an animal on stage, has anyone seen a live performance with an animal on stage? Right? If that, let's say you make a set, like you're doing Barefoot in Park by Neil Simon, and you decide to have this little kitchenette and this little dinette set, and they decide, oh, let's make it real, let's give them a cat. So you'll put a cat on there, and the cat's really docile, and so it'll sleep the entire time. Every audience member will be focused on that cat. You could be saying the most beautifully written words in the English language and emoting for all you're worth, and they don't care because the cat's stealing the show because it's the realest thing up there. And if that thing stretches, you're dead. You're just dead. But that's the thing. We're audience members audiences are riveted to what's real. I think in day-to-day life, we feel this sense of unreality. So we go to see people be real. And so actors that try to be the emotion, try to play, kind of come off as weird and happy. Whereas if you're just, there, if you're in the moment, I'm me, I'm gonna walk into this scene, and however I'm feeling is appropriate way to do it, so long as I don't waste energy not being that thing, or trying to pretend that I'm not that thing. The audience will make sense of it, and it becomes part of the performance. Not even sure what question I'm answering anymore, but we all just went on a journey just now.
Crawling through life.
Because I was very real and got totally lost in what I was saying. You had a question, you've been standing there very patiently for the past hour. I love your shirt, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so what you were talking about, back in my early college days, my high school days, I actually used to do theater and drama stuff as well. And my question kind of relates to that because I always had parts that I would go for but didn't get, and I kind of always just really wanted them. I was wondering, did any of you ever have a particular part that you really wanted to get, but you didn't get?
All the time.
Never. I get every role I've ever
All the time.
If you could pick just one that you really wish you could have gotten, do you remember it?
I have a couple.
It's a good question, and I don't mean to be like, no! But it's, but here's the thing, is this happens a lot. So we all know each other, we're all friends, and so if I go out for a part that I really, really want, and I don't get it, chances are someone I know and love did, and I have to be like, I just have to let it go. I lose work to Ian Sinclair all the time. All the time. And he and I are really good buddies, so when it happens, I try to forget about it, and it's really weird because I'll turn at I'll look at the finished product and be like, wow, that was so good, and I don't want anyone to think of me in that role, even hypothetically. I want them to appreciate the actor that did it. So there have been many, many roles that I wanted, and you want everything, honestly. But I don't think I want to tell you the ones that I've lost that someone else has done because they've done such a good idea. It's not a competition. And it actually was, and I lost. So
I think an interesting question to answer then would be kind of in the same vein, would be if you could play a role that's not your voice, that's not in your wheelhouse, that you would never get cast for.
Oh, that's
if you could pick any role that you would not get cast for.
Well, that's a good question.
That's another,
Yeah, I was going to say, do you do anything that matches what Brandon just
Yeah, that's.
But then you just know they would never actually do it.
While you're thinking, I'll answer. Into the Woods, I think it would be really cool to have a male witch sing the last midnight. That's what I want.
I auditioned for a stage production of Into the Woods when I was younger, and I auditioned for the part of the witch. There's nothing said I couldn't, and I was told I had a very spirited approach. They were like bold, very bold, and you know, off I went. I honestly would love to play a female character, because that I think would be a challenge for me. I don't sound, you know, much like a female. But one of my favorite works of literature is a book called Orlando by Virginia Woolf, and in it follows the story, the 500 or 600-year-old story of this boy that grows up in Elizabethan England, and suddenly just halfway, and suddenly he's weirdly immortal. It's never discussed why. He just doesn't die, and you know, and everyone else does. People are born and die all around him, and he just kind of copes with it on his little estate and all learning about writing and stuff. But he, about halfway through, I think the Edwardian era, he suddenly wakes up to discover he's now female. And everything changes. Now he's not the owner of his estate, and now he has to deal with like having to marry or losing everything. And it's really, and you know, he becomes a she, and ultimately, you know, survives to the modern era, the year of the book's writing. It's a wonderful piece of literature. It's one of my all-time favorite books to read. I would love for someone to do an animated version of it. There's already been a movie version, which is quite good. But I'd love the chance to play Orlando and play both the male and female roles, or at least share the role with someone, because I think that's fascinating. I'm fascinated by characters that live so long that we can't even conceive what their minds must be like. But vocally, it'd be really a challenge to play someone like that.
Well, personally, I'd love to try and take a swing at some of the more like, you know, like burly, manly men, like some of these fine gentlemen can do over here, because they're like, oh, look at these, look at It's like, oh, look at that badass, and he sounds so cool. And there's the jokes. I'm just like, hey guys, I'm here too. And I'm also okay. No, just keep looking at them. It's fine.
It's funnier to have the big burly guy who has the mean little boy.
I think that's more terrifying.
So what happens to Mike Tyson?
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Make me really upset, you know.
Yeah.
I know something about it.
Absolutely. Oh, you hurt me.
That is terrifying.
I don't have to work it out now. It would be really frightening. Oh, gosh. There's so many characters, so many things I can't talk about now, but the same thing, I'm going to reiterate again. It's just, yeah, they are your friends that usually get it, and they usually get it for a good reason, because they're quite great. And so you have to have that weird, like, congratulations. You know, because you do feel, especially there's some parts that even though they're not even big parts, they're just stuff that you've been like, oh, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I wanted to be a voice on the pirate ride, or something, you know, just something totally crazy. And you're just like, wow, your friend gets it, and you go, well, I think that was your first question, like, how do you handle it? Is that right? Like, when you try to go for something and you don't get it?
Well, it was more of just was there a particular role that you could think of?
Oh, God.
But I like Brandon's version better. Maybe is there a role that you would love to go for, but you know they'd never pick you?
Oh, sometimes I'd love to go up for the Joker at some point. But I know that they just see me too much as a burly guy. You know what I mean? I'd love to try it.
John DiMaggio can do it.
Huh?
If John DiMaggio can do it, you
Yes, John did a great job with it too. I love John so much. Yeah, there's more comedy. I love it when you get to actually get into. I'm finally getting to the stage where they're recognizing it, like as an actor, like doing like real dramatic pieces, and I'm starting to play my own voice, which is really weird for me, and I'm starting to explore that. But I didn't think I was ever going to get to that point. So sometimes it does happen, but I can tell you right now, there's so many things like that for me where I've tried so hard and just didn't get it. And it's like, oh. More often than not, I see why. You know, I go, okay, that guy just had it.
The thing for me, it's a little bit different, but when I was a teenager, I used to work at Disneyland, and they had these really cool opportunities, but they were only for guys. because there was this place you can go and talk to Stitch in real time, kind of like Turtle Talk with Crush. So they had guys who worked in my same department, but that job, obviously, you know, it's a guy role. And there was also Turtle Talk with Crush, which was also like in my same department, but there were no female equivalents to those roles, and I was really bummed out that because I was, you know, I was doing voiceover at the time too, and I wanted those opportunities to also be for women, but it was just, you know, Crush and Stitch, and that's the only instance I can think of right now. Yeah.
All right, partner that you would love to go for, but you know they never take you.
Oh, I don't know. Well, let's see. I guess one of my, I grew up watching like Little Mermaid and Aladdin. To have a chance even just to read for like Ariel and Jasmine, like not today, but back then, like in the 90s, I think that would be really cool. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great questions. These are good questions.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you so much.
My actual question is that I bet it's kind of weird, like, seeing all these people who come to, like, see you. When was, like, the moment that if you were just like, oh, wow, people like me?
So it wasn't really like people like me, but it was more of League of Legends specific. I didn't realize it was a big deal. This was years ago. And I was hosting for IGN. And I was doing like a tournament. This is like season 2. So I was hosting a tournament at the Cosmo in Las Vegas. And I had no idea. I thought, like, oh, it'll be like a convention, cool. No, at one point they're like, hey, Christina, there are 500,000 people watching right now, and like the Cosmopolitan was sold out too. I'm like, wow, I wasn't prepared for this. Okay, so that was a really big, oh my gosh, moment for me.
I think my moment was in a Starbucks. It wasn't at a convention. It was totally in a mall. I looked like crap because I had just gotten out of bed and was like, oh, I need to go into the mall. It was just the closest Starbucks. And I'm in line for Starbucks. This is not that long ago, actually. And I want you to understand something. Like, when I'm at a con and you know, people come up to me and say hi, like, I'm used to it. I mean, it's what we're here for, right? And you know what I look like is my pictures in the program and whatever. Although sometimes I can take my glasses off and no one knows it's me. Reverse Clark Kent. I'm like, I'm just ready to go. It's really funny. But in public, you know, I don't always wear my glasses, and I'm in public, and at cons I tend to be a little more outgoing, but in real life, in that boring place we call the normal world, I'm much shyer, and I don't really engage with people very much. I'm just kind of in my own little world. I'm usually listening to music or something. And I was in line at Starbucks, and this girl comes up to me, and she was like, now this happened at a con. Hi, how's it going? What's your name? But in public, I was like, I just looked at her until I realized, oh, she knows who I am. Oh, hi. And then it was weird because there's all these other people around that have no idea who I am. And they see this little girl losing her mind because I'm there, and they're like, who are you? And the expectation is weird because now they think I'm somebody famous, and I'm like, I'm really not, guys. I don't know. I think she just thinks I'm someone else. I know, hi, how are you? And she's like, oh my God, she wants a picture with me. And then she leaves, and she's like squeeing the whole time, and like this entire line of people at Starbucks are like, and I just had to play it off like, it's hard to explain to people that aren't into anime or games, you know, what you do. They're like, oh, you're an actor? And you're like, well, yes, I'm a voice actor. Well, I do anime.
You do any real acting?
Yeah, you know, it's a weird every other job you can think of, you're like, it's a nice concrete concept that people don't ask me any questions like, oh, I'm a doctor, or I'm a lawyer, or I'm an architect, well, I'm an actor, and I'm a very specific kind of actor, and doing this thing that you've probably never heard of in your life. Trust me, if you have a young son or daughter, they probably watch the show, you know. Yeah, and it happens occasionally with my family. Once we took my mom out for her birthday, and the whole family, my sister-in-law, my brother, and everyone around this big table. And you know, my family's my family. We bust each other's balls all the time. And you know, I'm the big goofy, you know, black sheep. And I'm sitting there next to my sister-in-law, and she's like, and I'm talking to my nephew who's sitting on the other side of me, and I feel this tap on my shoulder, and I look, and it's my sister-in-law, and she's like. And there's this girl, about 18, I imagine, just sitting there. with the hands, and I'm like, oh crap, hi! And my family watches me go from being like, yeah, screw you, and my sister-in-law thought I was the funniest thing in the world. She's like, I'm gonna ask her to sit with us and have dinner. I'm like, please don't. I don't want to be this person in front of my family because it's weird and you're never gonna let me live it down.
Oh.
So that's when I figured out, like, oh, people care, and that's weird. That's weird. But they only care about me because I have the good luck to play really awesome characters that they care about already. I want to reiterate, like, characters that I'm known for are not awesome because I play them. I'm awesome because I got to play them. So they make me, not the other way around. So like anyone else could do it.
Your voice like really brings out the personality of the character. That's why we're so passionate about the voice acting as well as the character.
And we agree. It's weird when you think about it because a lot of voice acting, anime is the only area I know of voice acting where the fans do know us as people. Like they know our names and what we look like. In most other forms of voice acting, it's totally anonymous.
It's like with the Japanese seiyus.
Yeah.
Especially in Japan, it's really important to like know the seiyus.
Yeah, it's a really big deal. Voice actors in Japan. It's like we talked about this the other day. A really big deal. They have concerts and they know everyone. You would go. I would make the joke. You would go see a Maurice LaMarche Billy West movie because they were in it. You know what I mean? Because they would know those guys. You know.
What about you? What about the time when you realized I made it?
I made it or not? You know, it's taken me a long time because most people don't. Well, they may not recognize me or they don't know who I am, and then they'll find out I do the voice of something. And then I'll do it. And the only problem with that is it's weird. Let's say it's Hulk, and I'll be in a restaurant or someone's like, "Here's my daughter, do the Hulk voice," and you realize all they're going to see is a big guy yelling at her. You know, and it's like a terrifying child. You know? Do Yosemite Sam. Well, all right. I get kicked out of more restaurants. No, it's such a, for me, it's like I'm so used to not being known that when I am recognized, I'm shocked. I'm like, no, you think I'm somewhere else. Like I really don't think they know me. So we're very lucky in that, you know, anonymity in some sense is great for public life. It's terrible for business, but it's great when someone actually does know you, they know you for your work, and they're just really like, the fans have just been, we're blessed because the fans are like, you know, are awesome. You know, so it's I would say when I started going to the cons, I think Tom Kenny said the funniest thing. He goes, it's the reverse world where like for 4 days you matter. You know, like, 4 days you really matter. You know,
it's really hard to come down off it.
Yeah, you're right. And so that's when I really did start to notice it. And now more and more people are, if they're into it, they recognize it. But it's again, it's a great thing. It's never like, oh, I'm getting, you know, it's. I feel bad for people who are really high profile and they can't like go to the market. You know what I mean? I forget because we have friends that are those people, and I forget that they're famous. You know what I mean? So it's like everyone taking people photos, and I'm like, why are they? Oh, you're so great. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we were on a bus with Jeremy Lee, and John, her husband, in Hawaii, and we were going to a luau. We were just on a bus driving from Waikiki to this luau, and she was talking about how she did a shoot with Shane Dawson, just on some YouTube video, and she had no idea how famous Shane Dawson was. And she's like, oh, he's my friend, I've known him forever, whatever. And just her talking about Shane Dawson caused an incident to happen on the bus because there was like a group of high school students that were on a band trip or something. And there was a girl who like reached over the seat and tapped her on the shoulder and said, did you say Shane Dawson? Do you know Shane Dawson? She's like, yes. And she just pulls out her phone. Oh my god, like suddenly all these band kids are like texting everyone they know. I know, it was weird, it was so weird.
I think one of the most surprising things was I was at McDonald's. So, hi, can I please have a chicken McNugget Happy Meal, no sauce? And I went up to the window and I'm like, Are you the voice of Ruben?
I think for me, it's not the first time, but it's definitely like one of the more like impactful things that I see from fans is, and there's two people here that I met that have them, but when they get like my lyrics tattooed on them, like that shit is mind blowing to me. Yeah, it's crazy because I'm just like, that's like a permanent thing. I know, and I'm just like, are you sure? Because like, you know, like it's because I wrote that and it's like, yeah, but like, so yeah, that always like blows my mind every single time. But it's very humbling. It's very flattering.
I remember when I first realized how famous you were. When we were, I don't know if it was Animax or Comic-Con first. Oh, maybe Comic-Con, just like, we're just walking. Hi, Animax Expo?
Yeah.
So we're at Animax, so we're there for maybe 3 minutes, and then some guy yells, "It's Who Wants to Battle?" And oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And suddenly there's like a crowd of screaming people around me. I'm like, oh, you're famous.
Oh yeah, because that was the first time we like went to.
Hung out in public.
It wasn't even hung out in public. It was like hung out at a thing with like our fandom and stuff.
And at Comic-Con too. I was really surprised. Like, hi, you're Nate. Excuse me, lady, can you take our picture? I'm like, okay. Sure.
It can change you. You start out so differently. You're like, I remember like, you know, when I first started doing conventions, you'd come and someone would give you like, you know, you'd have a liaison. You're like, would you like some water? You're like, oh my God, thank you.
Yeah.
Like 5 years later, you're kicking me on the green room door. Where's my armadillo?
And it's weird too, because we're all fans of other people's work too, so you end up going like a panel for me, like with like Lou Ferrigno or something, and I'm just like, you know,
Oh my God.
Thank you.
I love your sweater, by the way.
Yeah, awesome.
That's great.
Make me. Hi.
I'll try to tell them as quickly as possible. So I was an actor. I grew up as an actor. I did a lot of stage work as a kid, and I got out of it for reasons because I had to be an adult. Blah blah blah. And then Funimation became a thing that I was aware of. And a buddy of mine that worked out there as a director said, "Hey, do you want to come in and audition for this part?" And I was like, "Oh my God, no!" Because I didn't think of myself as an actor anymore, and I'd never voice acted before, and so I was really intimidated by the process. He wore me down because he wouldn't take no for an answer, and I finally agreed to come in because he told me, "Look, it's just going to be like an audition, and we're just kind of laying down some voices, and it's not going to be a big deal. Just come in, it'll be fun. If you suck, we'll laugh, and we'll never speak of it again. Just do it." So I did, and it came in. It was like a 4-hour-long audition, and which I'd never experienced before. Experienced stage auditions are like maybe a minute and a half, and then out comes the shepherd book, and they never talk to you. But so I was like, 4 hours, what the hell? And I had to learn all these techniques that are specific to voice acting, specifically dub voice acting, where the scripts look very different than other sorts of scripts. There's all sorts of technical jargon, and there's time code and everything. And I was like, oh, this is really crazy. And we went on for 4 hours, and the character was really emotional and all over the map. And I was like, this is insane. And I was confident. 4 hours passed, and he's like, all right, out of the booth, let's sign some NDAs. And I was confident that I had screwed everything up, and he'd leave me alone. I'd never do this again, and I could go back to my normal, boring adult life. And I was signing NDAs, and I made some comment to the effect of like how do you people at Funimation get anything done if it takes you 4 hours to audition every single actor? And the director's response was, oh, it didn't, it took us 5 minutes. We actually just recorded the first 6 episodes with you and the character, and you just signed 5 contracts. Screw you, you're an actor. And I'm like, ah! And so I got back into it that way, and I started taking a lot of workshops and studying it, and then for 2 or 3 years I did it on the side, and then after a while I was getting so much work as a voice actor, I thought, all right, I guess I'm a voice actor, right? And so I quit my other job and haven't looked back. Yeah. I was discovered
It started when I was born. I was born very young, and when I was a kid, I was always into doing this. I borrowed or stole my dad's tape recorder when they had tapes back in the day, and I would make these little shows and do voices, and I was always doing impressions. That got me into doing stand-up comedy, and I was improv, and then I got into classical, trained like theater, Shakespeare, that kind of stuff, and just did the theater life. Alongside of that, I was always into art and animation, and I went to school for animation as well, so I did acting and animation, and I was always doing voices for other people's films, and my own, still do it, animation, but it was, the two careers kind of collided, and I kind of put together a few films I had done, and showed it to an agent. My dad had known this one guy, and then I showed him the tape, and he liked Don Pitts, and then Pat Brady took over, my agent took over for him, and then, just so the two careers kind of collided and just kind of went on. And for a while I made my living doing looping groups, and my first big film was Gladiator, but before that it was all Kung Fu theater, because they didn't want any more of the hey you, get over it, they wanted to sing perfect, so they had to do a lot of, and then just slowly did a lot of, yelled my way in basically, and just did a lot of video games, and then slowly got myself into features and TV and stuff like that.
So I did musicals in high school and theater in that sense, and then I was away from it for 10 years. I'm a software engineer as well, and so I was in my software job, and that's all I thought of myself as. And my brother was studying theater at this school in Dallas that would have open auditions, so it wasn't just limited to the students. And he called me and he said, hey, they're doing Les Mis, which was the last musical I did in high school, and I was Valjean in that, and he said, you should come audition. And I said, Jonathan, I haven't acted in 10 years, I can't do this. And he said, well, I already signed you up in an audition slot after mine, and you really wouldn't want to make a bad impression by just skipping out on it. And I said, Jonathan, you just seriously, you're blackmailing me into this? And he was like, all right, bye, see you, love you, I'm just gonna see you there at the audition. I had no idea what I was doing. I showed up, it went really well, I got the part of Marius, and that started me back into theater in Dallas. And then Ian Sinclair called me while he was preparing to do Black Butler, Book of Circus, and their translator had an issue with dialect. There was a very specific sort of weird dialect in it that wasn't hard to translate, but it was hard to figure out the cultural significance of, where did this dialect come from? Because it was weird. So I did some searching on the Japanese Yahoo Answers site of all places, and was able to figure out that it was a specific performance dialect from Osaka in the early 1800s. Narrowed it down to a specific street. It was awesome. It was for the character of Joker. And sort of as oh, thank you, that's so cool. He had me come in and do all the cats in Book of Circus. And then while I was in there, he said, oh, do you have a British accent by chance? I said, yes, I do. He's like, well, let's try it out. And so then that led to Patrick Phelps, and Book of Murder, and then I think Caitlin Glass came to a stage performance I was in, and then was like, hey, do you wanna come in on this show I've got called Shonen Maid? I mean, he has to sing, I need singers. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. And that started that, and that's how I got started.
Mine is kind of similar to yours, actually, Fred. I thought I was going to be an animator when I grew up. That was my thing. I love drawing, and I was preparing to go to art school and everything. When I was a kid, I would memorize movies and just play them back and talk over. I still know Lion King verbatim. And then the Sailor Moon VHS tapes came out with the subtitles, and I had a friend, and we would just record them on tape players and do our own sound effects, and we did it so many times because we wanted it to be perfect. We did that every day, every weekend at least after school. And I was about 12 when I found out that voice acting was a thing, and I grew up in a not so great part of LA. Nobody in my family was an actor, but I just knew that it's what I wanted to do, and I feel like I was pretty gutsy for a kid, because this is what I want to do, I'm gonna do it. And I got really lucky, and I met people, and I had my first audition when I was 16, and I had my foot in the door, and they, even when I was auditioning, they expressed hey, this is kind of like Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. Not everybody gets to even come in to audition. And I really took that to heart. And so after that, you know, I switched my focus. I did theater, and I majored in theater in school. And I just kind of worked my way up very slowly, doing bit parts Walla for years. You know, getting my first leads in shows, and then, you know, finally getting, you know, even recently getting my agency, and now I get to be in like Disney World rides, and, you know, I did the voice at the Mummy in the new Mummy movie. I'm like the Mummy voice. So I did that, and just being in all these great shows, and it's just been really crazy, but it's taken half a lifetime to get to this point. So yeah, I feel very, very fortunate and lucky.
I'll make my story quick, but you know, voicing is something I had always wanted to do as a kid. I love cartoons, I love doing, you know, all the voices and stuff like that, but I never really knew like how to really break into it. But when I did, I was already established as a musician, as a singer, as an internet person, and I was already going to conventions as a guest because I did a lot of anime-related stuff. And I was at one convention in particular, and it was actually Tyler Walker, the director for Fairy Tail. And so I was kind of like, at the time I was kind of like the outcast guest, because everyone was like a voice actor from Texas, and I'm like this like singer from, at the time, Florida. And this guy walks up to me, he goes, "I know everyone here. I don't know you. Who the hell are you?" I'm just like, "Oh, I'm Nate. I'm a musical guest. I'm a singer here." And he's like, "Oh, you sing? Do you do voice acting?" And I'm just like, "Well, I've never like done it a lot. I just like practice at home." He's like, "Okay, because singers tend to have like good control over their stuff. So give me your info, and like let's talk about stuff." I'm like, "Oh, all right, whatever." And then it wasn't for like another year, but he sent me some stuff for this show called Luck and Logic. And that's kind of what started everything, because then I was there, I recorded for that, I got to work with a bunch of other directors at Funimation, and then that's just kind of how it branched out. So it was really luck, it was right place, right time, so yeah.
Thank you.
So this will be the last question, I'm afraid, because we're going to have to wrap it up. So I'm sorry for having to get you. We love you.
If you have to ask us questions, so come on by. You know, we're out of the booth, so come visit us. You know, you just want to talk.
I know the recording session kind of put a lot of strain on your voice, and I've been wondering like if different studios, how they treated you, and like comparing you differently, you know, with like Anaplex or Blizzard or Funimation or Riot back in 2010 and 2011, or Riot now. Well, when if there's especially any outliers that you think of, also like recording studios, what are you doing section?
Really good studios, particularly good engineers, are very conscious of the strain it puts on your voice, particularly video games. Video games, it's not just the screaming, it's also very repetitive, because you have to, you know, you're not recording from a script, you're recording, or from a narrative script, you're recording lines that are more like it's almost like a probability matrix. Like, here's all the things you could possibly say. So it's variations on a theme. And it just, it's, even if you're just speaking in your normal tone for a while without shutting up, as well I know, it wears you out. So really good studios know to only like schedule in for a couple hours at a time, so you're not strained, you know, or 2 or 3 at the max. Most studios have to, like Funimation's really good, like Sally up in front keeps like tea and honey and all sorts of concoctions. Like, yeah. She's really nice. Mike McFarlane, who I've worked with a lot over the years, and I've done some of my hardest voices, like Scar and Inaru and a lot of, and Erwin from Attack on Titan are really demanding on the voice. He's very conscious of that, being a Dragon Ball Z alumni, being like, oh yeah, we're only gonna have you record Scar in like 2-hour intervals every week, because there's no way in hell you can do this in 6 hours. You can get everything done in 6 hours, but you'll have no voice for 6 days. So he was really good about that. And most studios are pretty good in my experience, because most of them are run by engineers or actors, directors who've been in the booth, and so they understand your own limitations, which is great. Not everyone, but most everyone.
They're becoming more and more aware. As we've been doing this, we've never done this before, so now it's like, yeah, after 10, 12 years, we've started to become more aware of vocal health. And so there are medicines and techniques and things that we're starting to learn how to do. And yeah, people are getting a lot better about it.
I'm especially curious about like how Riot back in 2011 was going to be.
Actually, like, it wasn't very vocally stressful, and it was only a 4-hour session. Yeah, I would say the most extreme case was Tales of Berseria, which it was only extreme because we had like 3,000 lines of dialogue and most of it was screaming. So at that point, it was, okay, we have to get it done. So what I did was I met up with my singing coach and she taught me some really great techniques to like warm up and cool down. And Wendy Lee, like Danny and Wendy are just, they're such professionals that even they could just hear like, okay, her voice has hit its limit for today, we're gonna stop right here. And then I would, drink my teas, I would be on vocal rest, and then I would, I would cool, warm down every night, and I never lost my voice recording that game. Yeah, so I was really lucky because, sometimes you work with people who are maybe don't really understand vocal stress, and you just end up screaming for 4 hours straight, and they're like, oh, you need to do it again and again and again. But for the most part, I feel like people have become very aware and they're very careful and protective over, their actors' voices. Thank you.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming. Please come see us at the autograph tables if you want to come sign. Just stop by and say hello. I think most of us are headed there now, right? Or do you guys have a signing session?
Except me, if anyone's interested, I have a panel again in about 30 minutes. So I think it's in this room. So whichever y'all want to do, enjoy your con.
Enjoy what's left of the car.